Not see the recording.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Yeah, it says it's going. That's good. Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's December 19th, 2024. This is our Indigent Defense Commission meeting. Little fact, it's my 37th anniversary today.
Oh,
Why do people marry in the winter? I don't quite know, but we were anxious to get married, I guess.
it's a Hallmark moment. Mine was yesterday.
Oh, there's a lot of us.
So Christmas, I don't know, the holiday season, maybe it
Yeah,
pulls on our hearts.
right. Yeah, we don't mind it to this day, but okay, so let's go around and got some new ones. Let's go around and have you introduce yourself with your name and like where you work, but also what discipline or group you represent in the Indigent Defense Commission. Just now and then it's nice to have that so everyone knows. So I'm Laureen and I'm a Davis County Commissioner, but in this group I represent counties of the first and second class with Utah Association of Counties. So, and I'm chair for now. And let's go to Tom Ross.
Thank you. Tom Ross, I'm the Executive Director of the Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice in the Governor's Office. And for the benefit of Commissioner Thomas, I don't know how long you've been in that role, but I came out of a law enforcement profession, 34 years, 14 as Chief of Police in Bountiful, and worked with the Chiefs Association as the president. And I worked a lot with UAC and the league. So back in 2015 to about 2020. So I don't know if we cross paths, but welcome to our commission.
Thank you. Margaret.
Margaret Lindsay, Utah County Public Defender Association, and I'm the child welfare representative on the commission.
Very good. Okay, I'm doing commissioners and I don't want to miss anyone. I think, let's see, Paul, you're probably new from the league, right?
I am. My name is Paul Dodd. I'm with West Jordan City. I do civil litigation for West Jordan City right now. My prior experience, I did a lot of criminal defense in Utah County, working with the Utah County Public Defender's Office as in a contract role. Did that for many years, and I've been with the city for about 10 years, and I represent the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns here on the commission.
We're so glad to have you. Do you have
Thank
a little
you.
bit of a Southern accent?
I'm originally from Texas. I've been here for about 20 years, so it's hidden, but well, actually more than 24 years now. But
Oh, go Cougs. I can see your background there.
yes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So yeah, Kendall Thomas, give us a little bit of info about you.
Yes. I've been a county councilman for, let's see, going on 6 years. First 4 years was a county commissioner. Then we changed our form of government. I served our school board for 15 years. I was elected to that position, and also the Stockton City Council. I've been active with our local homeless committee before I got elected, before I got involved in politics and the homeless committee. And so I'm really excited to be able to get to be a part of this. And I believe it's not quite sure the vacancy I'm filling, but I think it's through UAC anyhow.
Yeah, you're UAC 3rd through 6th class county.
3rd through 6th. So I'm excited to be a part of this lively discussion. So thanks for welcoming me. And I don't wear these ears to all the meetings, so I'll drop them off for our next appearance. So
we'll enjoy them for today. Okay, Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Vickery. I am a juvenile defense attorney and the delinquency representative on the commission.
Yes, thank you. Senator Weiler.
Hi, I'm Todd Weiler. I actually work at the law firm of Christensen and Jensen, and Mary Corporon and I are partners there. But I'm here as a representative from the state Senate, and I actually sponsored the legislation that created this commission about 8 years ago.
Yeah, fantastic.
Almost 9.
Mm-hmm. Was it 2015 or 2016?
I think it was 2016.
Okay.
My guess is 2016. They all blur together after a while.
Yes, they do. You've been serving.
And I just got reelected to another 4 years, so I might be around for a while.
Yes, we're very glad about that and congratulations.
Thanks.
You never take those re-elections for granted, honestly.
No,
I mean, I was not afraid at all for yours, but anyway, I know it's still a thing.
well, that makes one of us, so.
Okay, Michael Drexel.
Hey, sorry I was late. I'm Michael Drexel. I work as the Assistant State Court Administrator up at the Administrative Office of the Courts, and I was in another meeting, so I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. So are you in this commission representing the AOC? Is that?
I believe in this commission, I'm the Judicial Council's designee.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Let's go with Commissioner Hopes.
Casey Hopes from Carbon County. I represent the vacancy that will be filled by, and I can't, Commissioner, who was it?
Thomas.
Commissioner Thomas, 3rd through 6th class counties.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Okay, let's see, Rich.
I'm Rich Morrow. I'm the Executive Director of the Salt Lake Legal Defender Association. I represent people who are full-time adult criminal defense, full-time offices in the state.
Yep. Mary.
My name is Mary Corporon. I am a criminal defense attorney. Have been doing that for, oh gosh, 44 years now. And I'm in private practice, and I am here by reason of appointment from the Utah Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers.
Very good.
So Mary started criminal defense when she was 12. So if you're doing the math.
We are so glad to have you, Mary. This is just a really great group, Kendall. It's just a really, really great group. Let's see. Are those all of the actual appointed commissioners? And we'll go to staff if we have.
Did we get Commissioner McKnight?
Oh, let's do Commissioner McKnight. Aaron.
Hi, I'm Aaron McKnight. Sorry, my camera's not working today. I work in the Orem City Attorney's Office right now, and am a designee from the Utah League of Cities and Towns.
Okay, so the league has 2 designees then. Okay, I did not know that. I was thinking I might not know your name yet with your position. Okay, that's great. Makes sense, I guess, since UAC does too. All right, let's see. Okay, let's do some staff. Ben, go ahead.
All right, hi, everybody. I'm Ben Miller. I'm the deputy of the Indigent Appellate Defense Division.
Great. And then let's see. The one that just says IDC, you're up in the new, yeah.
That's me, and I was supposed to hit record, so I apologize. We figured it out. Yes, my name is Zariah Gatmeyer, and I'm the new managing and training attorney here at IDC, and I'm glad to be part of this group.
Yes, thank you. And is it Buhay?
Yep, you got it. My name is Josh Buhay. I am the financial analyst for the Indigent Defense Commission.
Great. Deborah.
Hi, I'm Deborah Nelson. I am the Chief Appellate Officer for IAD.
Yes, thank you. Katrina.
Katrina Adair, the Grant Program Manager for IDC.
Yes, thank you. And Adam?
I'm Adam Troop. I'm the Assistant Director for the Indigent Defense Commission.
Okay. Is there anyone that I missed? I think we got it. Okay, we'll kick off the agenda. And I was away on county business and not able to attend this last one. So those of you who were in attendance and have looked over these minutes, love to have a motion when you're ready.
Could I identify one issue? This is Michael Drexel.
Yes, please.
I am listed as being present, but I, for the life of me, do not recall being present. And I have that I declined the invitation for that October meeting. So a correction might be to move me from present to excused.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Commissioner, this is Tom. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with that change.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Tom.
I'll
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And that was by Casey Hopes. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Are there any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you. Josh, do you do those minutes now? Yeah, you do, don't you? You do a great job. Thank you for those. Okay, next up, we have the Utah County Public Defenders update by Matt. Oh, Matt, I didn't even introduce you. Introduce yourself, and then you can do the first item.
I need no introduction.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Okay, Utah County update. Those of you who were here last time we met, there was a lengthy discussion about Utah County Public Defender's Office and what was going on there. We've been keeping a close eye on things and in close communication with the management there and with the some of the county folks as well. Yesterday, they had a commission meeting where they voted to engage in negotiations with Utah County Public Defender's Office to get a contract in place. So I spoke to Josh Espelin last night. He's the assistant director now. And so they should be going on that. He's hoping to get that done before the holidays so people can rest easy between that and the new year. Commissioner Lindsay probably has some more detail to add on that if she cares to, but it looks like things are finally moving in the right direction after a long time of uncertainty. And I know that that has definitely been wearing on the people there. And I hope that things will come out the other side in a stronger place with some structure changes that I think also will help in the long run with the office. More of a management as far as they've reorganized things so that there's some more of a middle management going on, so that there's some better communication amongst the line attorneys and the administration there. And then I know that Josh and Debbie Hill, the director, are really doubling down on establishing a relationship with the county commissioners and the county attorney and having an open and ongoing dialogue between those parties there in the county.
Want me to step in now?
Sure, if you'd like to add anything, please do.
Well, yesterday was a big relief. I mean, it was the next step that needed to happen. It was a step that we, had been kind of hanging in the ether for 5 weeks. And so we're relieved to get that part of it done and to be, actually recommended to continue to be the indigent defense service provider. The county also approved the tax increase, which is, I think, a necessary part of our budget process as well. And they've already, I believe, approved the county attorney's budget and increase. We still are feeling under the gun simply because our contract expires December 31st. And so, it's unlike most years where, okay, we may not have everything ironed out in the budget, but we've got the contract. We don't have a contract yet. And so we feel the urgency to try and get that done by December 31st, because we don't want to contemplate what would happen on January 2nd with 20 courts and no contracted provider. So we're hopeful for that. Debbie Hill and Josh Espelin have been doing a great job. And Debbie moving from assistant director to director, and Josh moving up to kind of that number 2 position. So that's fabulous. I think my concern with the juvenile court is a little bit extra in the sense that we have a brand new court starting. And as of now, I have no authority or budget in which to look for attorneys to fill the needs. But again, we're hopeful that we can move forward now and continue what has been overall for 30 years, a good working collaborative relationship with the county. So we appreciate the efforts that everyone has made on our behalfs, and keep your fingers crossed that we can get this hammered out in the next 2 weeks.
Did Tom Main step down?
Tom did. Tom stepped down, and he actually will be retiring.
Okay.
Tom is
Well,
an amazing attorney, an amazing man, and he had done a tremendous job over the last 15, 20 years of
yeah.
building this office and creating a workplace where attorneys want to work. And we're grateful.
Well, and I don't doubt that. I do know, I mean, I've talked to a few of the commissioners privately, and it's my understanding that most of this was about, you know, having him step down. So my guess is you'll get a new contract now.
Yeah, well, thank you. We appreciate, yeah, we're hopeful. I know everybody is working very hard to, you know, there's been a lot of tremendous growth in the county and in our office, and there, as you know, with that come growing pains. And so we're hopeful that that's what this is, and we're working hard to come through and in a positive direction and ready to continue to do the work that we all love.
Well, good. I got a couple panic calls from a few of your attorneys a few months ago, so I started looking into it after that Channel 2 segment. But I haven't talked to anybody recently. But when I tried to peel away the layers of the onion, it seemed like there was a dispute between Tom Means and Commissioner Gardner. So anyway, hopefully that'll break the logjam.
I agree. Thank you, Senator.
My pleasure.
I don't really have anything to add unless anybody has any questions. So.
It's a really helpful update. We've certainly been watching and hoping for our fellow county down there too. So good to hear. Sounds like hopefully the time will work out. Time frame will work out, Margaret. I sure hope so. Okay, any other piece on that, Matt?
No, I think we can move on to the next item.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I guess this is the Indigent Appellate Defense Division presentation. So now we have Deborah Nelson and Ben Miller. I'm excited to hear from you all.
And we're excited to be able to present, especially with having so many new people on the commission. We wanted to reintroduce ourselves and give a little background on what we do and what we've accomplished. Ben has put together a nice presentation, but as an overview, for those who are just joining the commission, we were created in 2020, right during the pandemic, the Indigent Appellate Defense Division, which we refer to as IAD, and started accepting appeals and criminal appeals only in July 1st. And we subsequently have added to our divisions, which Ben will elaborate on, but we have almost reached 600 appeals since then. And it's more than me now. So it was just me, and we have added staff, and Ben will tell you about what we've been doing and some of our successes. Ben?
Thank you, Deborah, and hey, everybody. So I'm going to walk through, can we just put a quick little presentation together? Let me see if I can share my screen. Sure. All right. And so I'll try not to be repetitive or take up too much of your time, but this is us, IAD. Some of this was meant just a quick history of how our office came about, just from some of my research, and a lot of you here probably know most of this, if not all of it. Back in 1994, the Supreme Court recognized the need for a statewide appellate public defender's office. That idea was reiterated by Chief Justice Durham in a letter to the Judicial Council in 2008. And then, as Senator Weiler mentioned before, 8 years ago, 2016, we got off the ground a little bit with IDC, as Justice Durant called a positive first step. And then 2020, IAD came along, and we began actually, it was just kind of a project to get a sense of what was the need in these 3rd through 6th class counties once we offer services. And I think pretty quickly there was a recognition there was a massive need. So then, of course, we all unfortunately remember the pandemic. So our office really got off the ground handling cases starting in 2021. That's when we started hiring individual attorneys, and we were able at that point to handle cases both internally ourselves and continue to oversee cases contracted out to private attorneys. And obviously, once courts opened up, we started to get a sense of, well, what will the workload really look like? And when we began, we had data showing that of 3rd through 6th class counties prior to IAD, so fiscal year 2018 and 2019, only 49 criminal appeals were filed per year. And we expanded that, I think, by 140% within our first 2 years. There just was a massive need and a information vacuum of what needs to be done, and then just a lack of attorneys who handle appeals able to do it. And as Deborah mentioned, we started to expand beyond just criminal appeals. The first expansion was the creation of our Family Defense Appellate Division. That's led by Alexa Marichal, and they represent parents who've had their children taken away from them. And I'm not going to talk a lot about their division because they're kind of their own thing, some of their needs, but I just want to make sure I point out how amazing they have been. I'm just blown away by them. And if you just take a look at kind of the reported opinions from our appellate courts from the last 4 or 5 years, prior to Alexa kind of sort of coming on the scene, there really aren't a ton of cases in this area. And I think she has been at the forefront before she got to our office and then since at making sure, and she's one of many, she's not the only one, I want to make sure, but she's done remarkable work at spreading the awareness, at creating, elevating the bar. So I'm not going to talk a lot about them, but I just want to make sure I point out what great work she is doing with her attorneys. So then 2022, we expand again to also start handling post-conviction cases. There was data collected by Annie at Brown, Bradshaw, and Moffitt that she got from the courts that showed prior to 2022, the only option for attorneys was a court discretionary choice to appoint pro bono counsel. And as you can guess, there weren't a lot of people capable and available to do these cases pro bono. And Annie learned that something like in a 5-year period, over 200 people filed post-conviction petitions pro se. 99% of them had those claims denied. And they did so because they didn't have counsel. And so that's why IAD was created. And post-conviction, you get counsel only after a court reviews the initial petition and decide there's potential constitutional violation. So these are cases that need an attorney to look at, and that's what IAD has been tasked with starting in 2022. 2023 was our first year sort of operating with 3 complete divisions. We saw 121 cases that year. And then 2024, that number increased. And more importantly, what increased was we are starting to handle more and more in-house ourselves. We went from handling like a quarter of cases that came through our office to now across all 3 divisions among our 7 full-time attorneys and 2 part-times, we handle over 75% total. So that's our numbers have really increased. Oops, sorry. All right, so who we are, very quickly, we met Deborah and myself. I mentioned Alexa, who heads family defense section. Wendy Brown heads our appellate section. And then we have 4 full-time staff attorneys, is that math right? 2 part-time attorneys, and we have an amazing support staff led by Ashley Olson. All right, so this year, 2024, as I mentioned, our office handled internally 80% of the cases that came through us. And together we filed over 100 appellate briefs, a dozen cert petitions, petitions for post-conviction relief, motions in district court when they come up, and we've been counsel of record in 4 reported opinions just this year. Our attorneys have really been recognized as leaders in our fields. We were repeatedly asked to present trainings both here locally and across the country with I can't think of an important national organization that hasn't reached out to one of our attorneys to present a training on some topic. And this picture was our family defense section. They were tasked with presenting at the ABA's national conference in Washington, D.C. And their presentation was so impactful that they have received numerous phone calls since of people wanting to discuss it more with them and for them to come speak to smaller organizations. Since 2023 is when we started getting reported opinions out of the Court of Appeals, and we have 11 reported appeals just from our attorneys, which is the most of any single office in the state in that time period from the Court of Appeals. And so as we see, like our staff has increased from our early days, but as you can see from this little chart, not at the rate that our incoming cases have. And so that is kind of what we've been dealing with is, the Field of Dreams motto, if you build it, they will come. That's what we've seen across all 3 sections is once we've gotten off the ground, we see the need for attorneys is far exceeding what I think anyone really thought. And, that's a really good thing that people are getting counsel and access to justice, but it's increased our workload. And I want to talk about why increased workload, because this is an issue impacting everyone in the appellate courts. This was a case that the Court of Appeals decided, I think in November, and it was a consolidated case of 3 different appeals. It didn't involve our office directly, but it was a long opinion of the Court of Appeals discussing really parties on a criminal appeal are taking longer and longer to file their briefs, more and more extensions. And you can see from this block quote, 5 extensions in one case, 8 in another, 16 in a third. And though this wasn't a case out of the norm, our office has prided itself on not taking any more than 4 to 5 per extension, and that's per case. And that's our average. And we were below that in fiscal year 2024. And it's starting to pick up a little bit. And I think the court would admit this. There are repeat players in the criminal context. Like the Attorney General's office handles most of their cases. And then between our office, Utah County, LDA, and the appellate group, those 4 entities handle a huge percentage of the appeals. And so these cases are taking longer. I think I can say with confidence, no one thinks it's because of effort or, people caring. It's because the more cases that come in, the longer it takes before you can even turn to a case. And I think that is what's fueling a lot of this backlog. It's not, you talk to attorneys, it may take you 90 days to do an appeal, but we're not able, and this is across the board, I think, to really turn to those cases until we've already had it for several months. And so the Court of Appeals is starting to take notice, and they want things to move a little quicker, and so don't we. But appeals, they need the time they deserve in order to protect people's rights. And everyone needs their time to respond. And so this really shown, I think, when I started looking at our numbers, the bottom line is we have far more cases coming in at a faster pace than we can get out the door. Like I said, we're averaging about 4 to 5 briefs out the door every month, but we're getting somewhere between 5 and 7 new cases each month. And so with that just means no matter how fast we go, the backlog is going to continue to grow. And post-conviction is even similar. We've been seeing consistently since we've been appointed about 2 cases a month get assigned from across the state. Post-conviction takes a long time. And so we're getting cases out the door about 6 a year, I would say, 4 to 5, 6 a year. And again, it just means backlog grows, more delays are going to have to be going to have to occur, and without more attorneys, it makes it really hard to catch up unless we're going to sacrifice quality, which we do not want to do. So very quickly, where our criminal appeals section stands right now, like I said, they have 4 total attorneys. Like I said, last year they filed over 106 appellate briefs. That's each attorney filing, that's, a couple a month. But we also now have 140 open cases. 82 of those are in the initial briefing stage. That means 82 where it's on us as the appellant and almost all of them to take the next step. And then we have another 20 that I call backlog, where people file the notice of appeal, but they haven't even been able to assign to an attorney yet because of how much they're already dealing with. And caseload standards for appeals are a little difficult to determine. We commissioned a study in 2023 with the data scientists at the University of Utah, and they did a deep dive into caseloads, and their recommendation was about an average of 14 cases per year per attorney. The NLADA has data from a few years ago where they do it based on units, based on what parts of an appeal. So you don't really know at the start. But that data, 20 units, probably works out to about 15 cases per year per attorney. All our attorneys right now are carrying almost 20 per year. So we're already above that, and our backlog is growing. And then on the post-conviction side, like I said, in 2022, our office was appointed. The idea when these was first started was you'll probably see about 3 appointments per year. We've got 50 since we started in the fall of 2022. We have 11 already this fiscal year. Based on our backlog and our current staffing, if we just go at the current pace we've been going and deal with it, it is a minimum of 5 years, I would say, until we could deal with every single case. And that's assuming we don't get any more. And so that's the current state of post-conviction. All right, so now versus then, how things have kind of increased very quickly. You see our budget from fiscal year 2022 to now is increased by over a quarter, and our total cases have gone up about 17%. Our staffing has doubled, but you see the real massive increase is in cases we are now handling personally. And we have a strong belief that handling things personally is better across the board, but including financially. But again, it requires attorneys to have the time to do that. And just my last final note I'll say is just back to family defense. Their staffing is a little difficult to get a hold on what they may need or don't need because of the nature of family defense appeals that go at a very different pace than everything else. But they have recently started expanding the cases they handle to start managing cases in additional counties. So as that starts to increase, you're going to see their workload increase significantly as well. So that is basically us in a nutshell. I think just very quick, I'll say kind of Margaret said a second ago, talking about Utah County, let people do the work they love to do. And I think that's very consistent with our office. We have a wonderful group of dedicated attorneys that impress me every day. So that's kind of just who we are. If anyone has questions or wants to know more, chat me, send me an email. Love to talk. And thank you all for being part of our commission.
Thank you both.
Before they go, I know that Ben and Deborah love to talk up their staff and their attorneys because they are incredible attorneys. But I want to talk up Deborah and Ben as well, because that kind of dedication and that sense of mission starts from the top, and they have really set the tone there for these. A lot of times these attorneys that they're bringing in are pretty young, pretty new, not a whole lot of seasoning there. And Deborah and Ben and their management team have really taken it upon themselves, not only to teach them how to do the work, but then also how to do it with that sense of camaraderie and doing it for the right reason. So I want to salute the two of them while they're here before all of you.
Yes, Matt, thank you so much for doing that. And they're getting accolades on the chat too. Pam Vickery, I have to say the appellate work in child welfare has had a significant impact. I can't say enough great things. Margaret Lindsay, I heartily agree. Here's a question from Margaret. Ben, is IAD handling all appeals internally, or are some of them being contracted to outside roster attorneys?
So that's where we have really increased. We've gone, it used to be a little more split, but I think this year we've handled, I think it's like 98% internally. And so we've moved to the point where we are handling internally unless there is a conflict, or every now and then we get a case where like someone has prior working relationship or it just makes sense, but that will sort of streamline things. But other than those examples, we're handling almost all of the appeals now internally.
With the exception of the child welfare cases,
child welfare,
right? Because there's inherently, you're going to have a mother and a father, and one of them is going to have to leave the office. So we do have a higher rate of sending those out.
Yeah, good question. Does anyone else have a question?
Commissioner, this is Tom. I just wanted to also recognize the great work that this team has been doing in the expansion. Obviously, the need is high, and I don't think any of us were surprised by the fact that the need would be exceeding our capabilities fairly quickly. Maybe it was a little faster than some I thought, but I think based on where we've come in criminal defense representation across the state and trying to move this, I could certainly see that coming. And as Matt will talk later, it's a little unfortunate that it's a tough budget year, and maybe a little tougher than last year, even from the conversations we've been having at the state level, and at a time when this group and other needs certainly as well are really expanding at a level that they need the support. So it'll be an interesting budget cycle as we try to work through it, and hopefully we can make some improvements from where we're at. But I think we're all hoping that the economy does well and the numbers improve as we get the session started. But thanks to Deborah and Ben and the whole team, and Matt for his leadership as well. And it's definitely headed in the right direction.
Thank you, Tom. Pam, I see your hand now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think what this does show too is, frankly, a lot of what the GALT assessment report talks about that we just got, which is that infrastructure and the ability for people to brainstorm and have people that they work with is so key to the things that we do. And it shows when defenders have those resources, how successful it is. Because I mean, if they've done that many appeals, I don't know what those numbers looked like, Deborah, before IAD in the 3rd through 6th class counties, right? And I know we've been doing stuff to try and improve on the delinquency side, and we haven't had that kind of level of success, but what we have had is a lot of success with helping defenders with motions practice and getting a lot of cases dismissed that way. So we haven't gotten to appeals, but we have seen success in other areas with regards to that. But I guess my point to that is just everyone knows, like, when we're looking at the appeal stuff, like, we have an appellate attorney within our office, and it's such a huge benefit to our office to have her there to be able to brainstorm with the trial attorneys. But I literally was on the phone with Ben just before this meeting saying because we're not a big office like LDA, so our appellate attorney is kind of on an island. And so how, as an office, do we give her all the amazing infrastructure things that our office gives to the trial attorneys, right? Which is the ability to walk across the hall and brainstorm with trial attorneys. But how do we give that to our appellate attorney? And anyway, just kind of brainstorming with Ben about all of that stuff. But I want to say also, IAD has been so supportive of our office and invited us to brainstorm and include in all of these types of things. And I just want people to know that that's been a really positive resource, I think.
Good to hear. Michael Drexel.
Oh, thanks. I don't want to prolong the gushing, but I did want to say I love this report, and I love being even affiliated with the Indigent Defense Commission because of the work IAD is doing. I think they're making such a big difference, and it's so uncommon, I think, for something that is so new to be so effective. And I see that you're going to be overloaded. I did have a question, and that is that the case chart that you showed with attorneys and cases plotted, it looked like cases had maybe leveled out a bit. Do you think that we've reached an equilibrium point on the cases that IAD's going to be receiving, or are you having to turn cases away and that's why it's flattened out in the last 2 years? What's your assessment of what that trend line is doing?
We haven't declined cases. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for the decline. I think obviously there was a post-COVID spike where cases got back into trial. Things opened up a little bit. And so, there was going to be some spike in leveling. Part of it, maybe was tied to, the crime rate went up a little bit and came back down. But I think we're really interested in what this full year looks like to see where it goes. What I can say is this year, things have picked up in the first half of the fiscal year, to back toward, you're gonna see a little bit more of a spike, and so we'll see what happens over the final 6 months. But, yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, it's a good question. Margaret?
No, I did just want to give, one shout out, and that is to Doug Thompson, who is a brilliant appellate appeals attorney who was in my office, who for 2 years before the creation of IAD ran a pilot program in the third to sixth class counties and really showed the great need. And out of that came IAD, which is just a huge step for our state. So we want to thank Doug as well.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, to me, who doesn't work in this world as deeply as all of you, to me, it just says there was a lot of pent up need and demand. And wow, thank goodness we got it going, Any other question or comment? Well, that was a really timely presentation, and yeah, for those who are newer to this commission, now you know. Some really great work in just recent years. Ben agrees, Margaret, we love Doug. You have a good team. I was able to meet a few at the social that Matt had, and that was fun. It did seem like there was some awesome camaraderie. I was kind of in and out. Adam didn't even greet me, but I saw him. Anyway. Okay, Michael, yes.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. I just wanted to ask, because I didn't see anything outlined in the report, but is there more that IDC can be doing to help bring more resources to IAD? Are you going to formulate I know it's a hard budget year, but having these sort of things on our radar and seeing how effective and how maybe you're getting to a point where you're at and beyond capacity, what can we be doing as commissioners to help assist in making sure you continue to get the resources you need?
That's a great question. And I don't want to terrify Matt, of me speaking on the budget, but IAD is really struggling budget wise. For instance, PCRA, when we were given $40,000. We have not been given any more for PCRA, and we have 50 appointments. And as been indicated, before we'll even be able to get to some of those cases, it'll be close to a decade. And that's not justice, but we have no alternative. We have one part-time attorney, and the same goes for our resources for our criminal appeals and child welfare. They are handling more than what the ABA and our own internal report says attorneys should be handling to continue to be effective. And we have a backlog. So we are hurting. They're working hard. We have been so successful because of how great everyone is in IAD and the team, and even our support staff working ceaselessly on this, on all of our appointments. And we haven't, as of yet, turned any away, but it has been on our minds, especially about PCRA. At what point can we no longer accept cases? And that is a hard one because it was all created from not only Matt's effort, but before that, the judges coming to us who had been looking, I think Ben may have highlighted this, judges looking for 4 years for counsel to take some of these cases because they have reviewed it and see some glaring constitutional violations. And they came to IAD and we said, you know, at that point we couldn't do it. Matt came on board and made that possible so that it could be with our office, which I think rightfully so it should be. But at this point with just a part-time attorney, it's difficult, especially with people not specializing in post-conviction, which is a little different niche. And Ben will never admit, you know, he's so modest, but he has been teaching post-conviction clinic at the U where we partnered with them to create a pipeline of students so that we could funnel them in to do this work. And he has done that, but we are not able to hire. And so it's been difficult. Matt knows that. So we would take any advocating on our behalf to help our budget in any way, especially as Michael, you know, transcript costs have almost doubled and that has really impacted our budget. And so anything else, Ben?
No, I have nothing to add.
I love that you've worked on a pipeline. That's pretty cool. PCRA must be post-conviction something?
I'm sorry, yes, post-conviction act. So
one thing I guess I will say is there was a job fair at the law school, and they probably do this on purpose, where like our table and LDA and Utah County, and I think it was Iron County prosecutors, we all work in one corner together. And we talked about, especially people who've been there much longer than I have, there's a noticeable increase in the law students of interest in criminal law on either side. And I think both sides really want to harness that to get these students to come out of law school who want these jobs as a first option and not because, you know, there wasn't something else better. And so there is this great excitement. People want to be prosecutors, people want to be appellate attorneys, public defenders, work for the AG, work for us. And we want to, I think everyone on both sides wants to find a way to keep them because these are they come in with such enthusiasm and it's great to be around.
And also, if I can add on to Ben, these are top tier students. So they're not the people who can't find a job that, you know, we hear those stories. These are people who are in the top of their law school class. We have gotten interest from, you know, Ivy League students who want to come and work at IAD. And we really want to take advantage of that and just are not in a position to. We've been so fortunate to have such top caliber law students to clerk for our office and more wanting to, that we've gotten interest, like I said, from all over the nation.
That's fantastic. How unusual among all the states is this sort of a division?
Ben is our non-local. He's our Boston transplant, and he's worked for some of these agencies. Ben, what would you say as far as, I mean, there are quite a few state appellate defense agencies.
I mean, I don't know the exact number. I think it is common to see one of two things, either state, like I worked in Maryland where there was a statewide agency, like kind of similar, like one sort of umbrella agency, and they did all the appeals, and then underneath the counties were their own thing. Or you see something similar to what LDA has, where it's a single city or jurisdiction within a state, and it's all in one house, trial, appellate division. So I don't know if it's split 50-50, but most states, I think, have one or the other to cover the entire state. And someone will correct me, I'm sure, but we were created, I think we were one of the only, other than Pennsylvania, we were the only state at the time that didn't provide statewide funding for appeals. And so I think I can't put a definite answer, but I think most states are providing some type of appellate public defender to cover the state. And then they might have smaller areas with more population, like we do with Salt Lake, that can do it all within one building.
What do you think is creating this energy, Deborah, where more and more top tier students are interested in this work for their career?
I wish I had like just a fabulous answer, but I really do think it is in large part our staff. And Ben will hate me and I'll take his blowback later, but his relationship that he's developed with the youth students, and when he talks about that we've been asked to speak at national organizations, it's Ben that's been asked to speak at these national organizations. They hear him. He's fantastic. He's articulate and brilliant. And so he has many connections. And so it's that, and he has a presence on, LinkedIn, et cetera. And so I think it's really word of mouth and others who go to the national committees and who watch his presentations, and child welfare also. And they are just very enthusiastic. I mean, it has been remarkable to see the caliber. And, we have commented on that some of our law clerks could be attorneys, that they are just so brilliant. And I just think, and then they tell their colleagues. And so that's been we've gotten a lot of BYU interest, because it started with one and then now a dozen and we have just a file of people who want to work here. And
Deborah, can I jump in really quick?
yes, yes.
Oh, Commissioner Hopes was signing off. This was going to be his last meeting with us, and I wanted to say goodbye before he left, but I'll do that offline. Anyway,
I'm
sorry
sorry.
for interrupting your flow.
I'm sorry.
I did it at the beginning too, Matt. When you were having a problem, I also
Okay.
came in at the very
Okay.
beginning.
All right. I apologize, Deborah.
Oh, no, I'm done. That's
okay.
Well, it's awesome, and I'm not surprised that some of those things can make a really big difference. So Margaret asks, Pam, what is the budget and what are you guys over or under? And
let's talk about that. That's a good segue into the governor's budget
yeah, that'd be great.
report. That's an agenda item, so I can talk about that. Let me share my screen here.
We might be missing that on the agenda I have, Matt. Grantee site visit report, and I was going to ask you about budget. I don't see it on here, but for sure, let's talk budget. Yes.
Well, this is just to explain the process. As many of you know, the way that this works when we ask for additional funding is that I prepare a budget request on behalf of the IDC and IAD, and then I submit that to the governor's team, and they take a look, and then they decide what they're going to recommend and include in their budget when they present it to the legislature, who then is the ultimate decider of how the budget is spent. So this year I had requested an additional $400,000 for IAD, and then an additional $400,000 for the coming year. I requested an additional $700,000 for the grant program. That's that $700,000 that wasn't renewed last year, that we were able to cover with non-lapsing funds to keep those grant positions going. And then I requested an additional over $2 million for the juvenile court project that we have been working on. That's a direct result of or response to the Galt Center report that came out earlier this year. The governor's team took a look at those requests, and what they included in their budget recommendations for this year is only the $700,000 for the grant program. So, we've just sat here and heard about all the great work that IAD is doing and the caseloads that they are struggling with. And unfortunately, the governor's budget didn't include any additional funding for them. As I mentioned, though, it's ultimately the legislature's decision as to what gets funded and how. And I know that there is a lot of concern on the part of some legislators about what Ben had referenced earlier about the number of continuances, how long it's taking for a case to get through the Court of Appeals. And so I think there's a real appetite on the and focus on the part of the legislature to try and resolve that. And to put it simply, they're not going to be able to do that unless they're going to properly fund IAD so that we can keep up with the demand that is already there. Yeah, I'm a little uncertain on how much I can, push that, because it's outside of what the governor has requested. Perhaps, Tom can give me some guidance on that, but legislators can certainly request what they want to request in order to achieve their goals. And so when I go before the appropriations subcommittee, I'll be presenting solely on the $700,000 for the grant program. However, if there's other legislation out there that might impact IAD or benefit the work that they're doing, or give them the resources that they are needing, then I'm sure that there are others in the community who would be willing to advocate for that as well. I know that the Bar Association is very interested in indigent defense this year and has already met with the governor and brought up specifically IDC and IAD and the need to properly fund those. And so I think there is a recognition within the legal community that of the work that IAD's been doing, because the news is out there, the word is out. And so we do have a lot of community partners who are willing to spread the word and to let others know, especially in the legislature, the need that we have.
That's good to know. Pam?
I think I just wanted to say that same follow-up, like, how do we, I'm worried about making sure that all of this stuff is being talked about. I mean, we're hearing a lot of things about what's coming this legislative session. And I just want to make sure that when we're talking about those things, it's the defense bar and their caseload is being considered in that, right? Because everything that we've talked about so far is going to have a significant impact on our caseloads. And I think it is important to look at that, because I mean, with the continuances thing, I don't know, Deborah and Ben, if you guys know, but I thought when they were looking at that, what they saw was the majority of, anyway, like just the number of continuances that I think you'll be seeing. Like the indigent defense bar isn't the one that's requested 20 continuances, right? Like we're still struggling. Like we're not getting the 20th continuance. I don't know about you guys, but my office is not getting granted the 20th continuance. So we're getting our stuff done even with an increase in caseload and less. Do you see what I'm saying? And I just know the caseload is going to increase this session. And I just think that all of us as commission members, I hope that we're like really thinking and contemplating about that. This doesn't just impact like the court's caseload or the prosecutor's caseload. This impacts our caseload significantly. And I just want to make sure that that stuff is considered.
Yeah, and Pam, I had an internal policy where anything that was over 3 extensions had to be approved by myself or Ben. We've had to lax that a little bit because of the backlog now. But Ben was just telling me about a case that came out where each side took 18 extensions, 18, which translates into 1.5 years on both sides. So 3 years before it even reaches, and then there was 10 on the reply. So over 3 years before it even reaches the court for a decision. That is egregious. But the court has also come to me to speak on this and has confided that, they are seeing consistently 14, extensions for 14 and 18, and they're worried about it also. But our office, no, I think that Ben has, when he ran the numbers, we are at 5 is where we're about following, and which is far cry from the normal, I just saw one go through for the state for 11, and that was today. So, yeah, I mean,
I agree, Deborah. We try to keep ours to 3, 4 whenever possible. But I just recently had a delinquency, Pam, reply brief where the state took 9 months to file the reply brief.
and I know it's probably not the place, but I'll just plug that they were fully funded the last 2 years. So they got salary increases and staff increases completely funded. And we are still seeing these excessive extensions. And so, I'm hoping that we can still produce the quality, but without asking for any more. But we do have a backlog right now of 20 cases for our criminal appeals. So,
Well, and I just only say that is, I'm just going to sound so jaded when I say this, but I think it is important to understand, like, frankly, the indigent defense bar isn't going to be given the benefit of 19 continuances, right? At some point, the court, it's not going to be the indigent defense attorney. I mean, it's not going to be the bigwig private attorney whose feet get held to the fire on the caseload timeframe. It's going to be our offices that are like, nope, the continuance has been denied, or nope, somebody's objecting. Or to your point, Deborah, like we had one like that too, where the state asked for like 7 continuances. In the meantime, we have a 17-year-old kid. That's a year and a half of that kid's life sitting in detention, waiting for an answer.
Right.
And that's just, and so I just think that like, those are things that like, sometimes I get frustrated because I don't feel like that gets talked about a lot at the legislature, that it's like, we're not going to be granted the 11th continuance. We're going to be expected to go forward, yet even knowing that we have a higher caseload. And so I think that we do need to really start to like, I mean, I know Senator Weiler has been doing this, and the fact that we have IAD, and thank you, Senator, and like these are such huge steps and everything, but I just think it's a matter of making sure that it's like, okay, but you can't continue to increase the capacity of the system without increasing the capacity of defense. That's all I'm trying to say.
absolutely.
I think that's a fair point. And I can assure you that my colleagues, they don't connect those dots. So we need to do that for them.
Yeah, thank you. Michael.
There's almost a certainty that one of the topics of conversation is going to be appellate court productivity during this coming session. And I don't know exactly what shape that will take, but I know soon to be Senator Brammer is really interested in the data behind this. And it may be that there's a really good opportunity for us to do some educating and explaining about why the appellate courts operate the way they do. And maybe there are some good changes that can be made to fix a few issues. I think the focus is going to be on the judiciary, but so many of the other moving parts are also critical to understand and pay attention to. So,
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, just going back a little bit to when Matt's comments and wondering what my thoughts were. So it is always a little bit interesting or dicey a little bit when the governor's office includes things for state agencies and in their budget, and then how hard the agency negotiates or pushes to go beyond that. Matt's right, that can be a little bit tricky. It's doesn't mean that there can't be anything that's talked about beyond. It's just more about the perceptions of what the agency is doing versus how that fits in. So that we knew going into this budget, there was plenty of conversation coming out of the governor's office, and even conversations that I personally have had with some of the Executive Appropriations Committee folks and the Executive Office of Criminal Justice, where these funding things are going to come through. We knew that there were going to be challenges. What may be an option, and I haven't talked directly with Matt about this, but the governor's office, when the budget requests come through, they try to prioritize based off either something that the agency said where they think they're funding the most important part of it, or maybe it's only one piece versus another piece, because that's how these requests come in. Then maybe this 700,000 at least maybe could be split a little differently. Don't know for sure, but I think that's a conversation that if Matt feels that would be helpful or beneficial, that we could have with the governor's office planning and budget, and trying to look at it from that perspective. There's it's, the comments have been made about the legislature itself has the ability to bring requests forward. That could happen independent of the governor's budget. I suspect that a lot of legislators are probably somewhat hearing the same things and concerned about what is possible in the budget. I was told when the governor presented their budget to us, the cabinet level, maybe close to 2 months ago, I can't remember the exact time, they were talking about a 3% increase to the budget. And a big chunk of that was already being eaten up in some of the compensation things the states had to do, which are ongoing costs, and some of the big commitments that the state made in the prior session as well. So we knew that it wasn't necessarily a 3% budget increase. It was 3% of additional revenue. I heard from a couple of the EAC folks more recently, a couple weeks ago maybe, that number's the second round of projections came in lower. So that's going to make it tough. But maybe, Matt, that's something that we talk about a little bit on, is this 700,000, could it be distributed differently or looked at? Because right now it's committed to grants, and maybe there's an opportunity there. But I do think that a little bit even to what Michael was saying, that there's a lot of focus going on right now in the judiciary and in other spaces as well. But sometimes pieces can get kind of lumped in. So additional funding, additional requests for anything that has to do with handling judicial processes in our state could be held a little bit tighter this year, or at least scrutinized more. I don't know how that's going to play out. We know it's going to play out to some extent. We just don't know how broad. And so we'll see. But yeah, the request coming out across, we were very, very conservative. And even a couple of things that we were hoping to do based on previous year's conversations didn't get funded. And we'll see where those conversations go. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. Okay, Matt, we wrap that one up?
Yeah, no, I think I appreciate Commissioner Drexel's comments, and I hope that everyone who is in the room when these conversations are happening, please pipe up on behalf of the IDC and IAD, and remind those who are having these conversations that the important role that defense plays, and the need to have a well-resourced and vigorous defense to make the process work.
Yeah. And for Kendall Thomas, and just for everybody remembering, when we did our strategic planning session 2 or 3 years ago, we talked about how important the ongoing funding was going to be, because counties get really hesitant to count on grants in the first place if it's going to be, one-time type funding. And we've made that commitment that it's, they can count on it. And so even that 700 it's amazing that we had enough in non-lapsing to do what we did last year, but boy, we're just on the edge now, no doubt. Yeah. A couple more hands. Pam, go ahead.
Oh, Michael was first. Go ahead. Is that okay, Michael?
Oh.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. It's never occurred to me to even ask, so I don't know what the answer is, but I know the governor establishes the executive branch budget, and obviously all of those who are here that work directly under that hierarchy have some real constraints on themselves in terms of how they can talk about what should and shouldn't be funded. Do those things flow through to the IDC as a commission? I'm not trying to get out in front of the governor. in any way, shape, or form. But what I am wondering is, as we're having conversations with legislators, just as individual commissioners, because the commission hasn't voted on anything, are we creating problems for the IDC and for staff of the IDC if we are talking about what the needs are for IAD, for instance, or any other item that we're aware of as commissioners?
Maybe if I can just comment it, I don't believe so. I don't. You're right that it's a little bit trickier with commissions, boards, councils that fall under agencies, structures, and they are considered part of the executive branch, as far as the way the funding for it, the way the money flows through. But I think all it does is those of us that work in that space, we have to maybe sometimes talk things differently. But for the commissioners themselves, just like other commissions we have, and for advocates that work in the space, I don't think that those are linked. I don't think that the governor's office is going to Matt or to me through CCJJ, that everyone that's attached into funding needs, requests, or can't speak, that it can only come from leadership at the top. But it does put me at times, or Matt, or other divisions of CCJJ, it can put us in a little bit tighter position, especially how we advocate. That's maybe the more important part.
Yeah, I think anyone that could potentially, anyone who is a direct line from the governor's office where they could be fired by the governor, any of those people should not, in my opinion, be advocating for something publicly advocating for something that's not in the governor's budget. But I think the rest of us are, I think the rest of us are free agents, and we can do as we see fit. Is that what you're trying to say, Tom?
That you said it perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah.
With maybe the caveat that if we get a little too vocal as like, I'm a commissioner on the IDC, that it could create some fallout for Matt or for other people because of the interrelationship and the working. So maybe I need to be diplomatic.
Maybe and I know Pam's got her hand up, and just so you know as well, Commissioner, I will have to leave right before 3:30 for a budget discussion with GOPB, not this, but yeah, I think what Michael, what you said, we saw some changes occur with commissions last session, significant changes. Not all of those were caused based on legislators being upset with commissions, but there were a couple that were. And so none of it stops a legislator from having concerns or issues and bringing a bill forward to change a commission. And I think that this is valuable for whether it's IDC or JPEC or the Victim Services Commission, sentencing, all these groups that work. We do have to be aware that, we need to be diplomatic. I think it's a good, Michael, I think, touched on that. And I think we do a good job of that. But you upset the wrong people, and enough of them, and changes can be made. So, but I think this is pretty well.
This is good feedback. Thanks so much, Senator Weiler and Tom and Matt. I appreciate engaging in that conversation. I know we're running long.
This is stuff I never knew much about before, so it's super valuable for me, just learning more about this. Pam.
I agree. It's super helpful because none of us want to do anything that puts Tom and Matt in an awkward situation, but I think it's helpful. I thought what you were going to say, Tom, is, Michael, you're always diplomatic, but Pam has her hand up. She's not allowed to talk. Because Michael, between the two of us, I'm pretty sure which one of us we would know is not diplomatic. Anyway, but I digress. The point is, I was going to say is, Matt, I think my only question and my concern is when we're also talking about it is I want to understand, because Laureen, you had a good point, which is for the first couple of years that the IDC existed, we had a hard time getting counties to not be afraid to engage. And so I kind of want to know, like with the $700,000 that the governor has put in for grant stuff, what is the grant money situation currently, so that we know what you know what I mean? Like to Tom's suggestion, like if you had to split, like where are we at?
Would be a very Solomonic decision to make, right? Because those grants, those are funding people who the commission has deemed that those positions are needed and worthy of taxpayer funds to operate, right? Those counties need that help from the state, and so I think it would be very difficult to discontinue some of those. I mean, that would be my least favorite way of going about it. If we can find other ways without having to cut the grant program to do it, that would be my preference. And when we were in this situation after the budget came out this prior year, we did take a hard look at all of our existing grants to look and see if there's anything that was not as valuable, right? If we weren't getting maximum value out of the different grants. And there were a couple of cuts that we did make, right? But they weren't, I think the takeaway from that exercise though was that, these grants that we're giving out, over 90% of them are operating exactly like we want them to, and they are having really good results for those counties on the ground level.
So that's my question, Matt, is if you got $700,000 and you had to, like Tom is saying, you had to make the hard decision of splitting it. What I'm trying to say, so that I understand, is that we would have to go to counties, smaller counties, and say, we're going to have to take back a funded position. That's what I'm trying to I just want to make sure I understand how the money is allocated.
Right.
You need that 700,000 to continue existing positions for counties.
Exactly.
The trial level work.
That 700 is, that's not new funding, right? That's basically allowing the current grants to continue.
And the current grants to continue without the pay raises that the other attorneys throughout the rest of the state have received.
Right.
Maintaining the status quo.
And I just think that's important because I think people should know, like, for example, the Attorney General's office, when they got those raises, switched to paying people starting straight out of law school at $113,000 a year, right? And I have an IDC funded trial attorney in my office that got funded before those raises came into effect, but we get $50,000 from the IDC. My county pays the rest of that budget. And so I think it's important for people to understand too, that what we are funding and that's just one position in Salt Lake, right?
It has something like that, and so does Utah County, and so does Davis County.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think it's important for people to know that we're funding those and also funding them totally different, you know what I mean? So we haven't been able to accommodate those things. And I think those are important things for people to understand.
Pam, it is. We've had a lot of conversation in the last year or two in Davis County about the disparity between prosecution and defense. I mean, we talk about it a lot now. We try to do what we can, but it is not easy when counties are having to, This is a really good discussion. I think we got everybody's hands taken care of, and not any real solutions, but hopefully some understanding about what's appropriate and not. And you have our support, Tom and Matt. So, I think before you've let us know when there is something we can do, so keep doing that. Okay, so I think there's just one more item, the grantee site visit report, Matt. Okay.
And I feel like there's a theme here as far as, the funding situation, and on the IDC side of things, right? Best case scenario, this next year, we're able to continue with the grants as they're structured. And there's been a lot of dialogue within and amongst staff of how do we achieve our mission? How do we achieve our goals with a flat budget, right? Without having more resources? What kind of non-resourced things can we do to achieve our mission? And so along those lines, this last year plus, we have developed a new grant monitoring protocol. And she's not on camera right now, but Katrina, our grants manager, is responsible for putting this together and for coordinating these site visits. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Let me get my slides up. Okay. So prior to this program being implemented, and this practice will continue as we go forward. So this site visit program is in addition to what we've been doing before and what we'll continue to do. But most of our engagement on the county level, as it relates to our grants program, was through our annual collaborative meetings. These are meetings that we would have during the as we're gearing up for the grant season and grant applications being open, so that we could let our grant partners know what kind of funding was available, and then we would have a discussion with them about what their needs were, so that we could help give some feedback as to what we would recommend for them to apply for with their grant applications each year. So that was really our most one-on-one type of interaction we would have with the county folks, and we'll continue to do that. However, those meetings they're pretty small. It's usually the managing defender and whatever commissioner or council person has indigent defense in their portfolio, and maybe somebody from the county administration. Also, as part of our grant monitoring program that's currently in place, we have our quarterly grant reporting. That's when the grants come in, and Katrina verifies that those grants are being, the reimbursements are happening in accordance to the grant award, and then I review that and sign off on that as a check. All the while, we have two evaluations that are done through Leslie. She does the data collection for us, and so that involves what's called the system needs evaluation, where she will survey the managing defenders to see how the county is doing as far as compliance with the core principles, so that we know what kind of support is needed if there's any kind of deficit there. And then also she collects the semi-annual attorney caseload surveys, so that we can know in relatively real time how the caseloads are matching up and where the needs are. So, but with this new program that we've rolled out, we are doing site visits in all of the counties, and the program objectives for that is to do an in-person review of the core principles with the county leadership. And we have really tried to expand the number of people who are there present, and to do it in person. So we travel as a group on site to meet with the county leadership there, as well as other players. And not only is it to review the principles, it's to ensure that the grant funds are being used as intended. Zaraya is a participant, and she assesses the training needs for that particular system. Josh, before going, does a financial review and checks the documentation that the county provides him to make sure that the grants are being used appropriately. And then also maybe the most important piece of this is to interact with the county officials and also the defenders there to have a conversation, to hear what's working and what's not working, and how we can improve and strengthen our relationship.
You know, Matt, just really fast, what I found very valuable when you came and did an on-site visit and we had all those people in the room, that other people who are not the commissioner working with indigent defense, or in my case, you know, getting to work in this group, like there's just so much to understand that's really important, and people don't have those opportunities. So that's a really big opportunity for more people to understand what IDC is and does.
And these have been well attended, and they have been big groups. The Davis County site visit that we did, we filled up that conference room, which is a big conference room, and there were the clerk was there and his staff, and it's really an opportunity too for, you know, commissioners who might not have a lot of interaction with the indigent defense to actually meet the local defenders there as well. And so it's really bringing everybody together, and you know, there might have been an election in the past couple of years, and so there's some different leadership there who might not be that familiar with the IDC and with our core principles and our mission and what we're trying to do to help support indigent defense on the local level. So it's a great opportunity to have those conversations, and we break it down. It's a lengthy visit. Usually it's a couple hours, you know, an hour just going through the core principles themselves and talking about where the county is meeting those principles and where they have room for improvement. So this last year, we conducted 7 visits throughout the year. These are the counties that we visited. With some of those regionalization projects, we were able to do them all at once rather than visiting them individually. But these visits take a lot of work to coordinate, to make sure that everybody's available, and we do kind of have a compressed window of time that we can do these too, because during the session, of course, we're all busy up there on the hill, and then after that, we've got the grants to work on, and so it's really maybe like a 4 or 5 month period that we can try and get these visits done. And so we were able to do quite a few this last year, and so we were really pleased with that. So kudos to, again, Katrina for being able to pull this off. I sent you out the materials, the reports for each individual site visit that we did, so you're free to peruse those in great detail. But there were a couple of themes as I was reviewing those that I felt that was important to share with the commission. The first one is that having a strong managing defender makes a huge difference in those counties. So it's really a testament to the success of establishing that managing defender network. Mike McGinnis in Cache County and in Box Elder County has really been able to drive home the need to adequately fund indigent defense, and the investment in those 2 counties in their indigent defense budget has skyrocketed. Same with other counties that we visited, sometimes for different reasons, right? Washington County, I heard just yesterday, has increased their contract amount by a significant amount. That's probably more due to some of the dynamics with the AG's office and the DA's office, but the counties are taking note, and I think a lot of that has to do with having the voice at the table, of having the managing defender there in San Pete and I'm gonna forget the San Pete, Sevier, and Wayne with Johanna Williams there. The county commissioners all were very happy to have her there and to know who to go to if they had a question or a complaint, and to have a point person there. So I think we've got a lot of positive feedback about the managing defender program and how important they are to have in place. Another takeaway from these visits is the need to regionalize some of our specialized contracts. Over the past few years, we've worked to specialize contracts within a system. So having adult criminal contracts, a youth defender contract, and a parental defense contract. And what we've seen, especially in the rural areas when we've done that, is that it's pretty common for one attorney to have one of each of those contracts. And so it kind of defeats the purpose of specialization if you're just having one person do those specialized types of work. So one of the things, again, with the Galt Center report having recommended this as well, is to try to have true regionalization with some of those specialized contracts so that you have neighboring counties who have already, dipped their toe in the regionalization pool to encourage them to take that next step and to regionalize their youth defender contracts. And so just having one person amongst those 3 counties doing that work, or on the child welfare, parental defense, family defense side of things, doing that as well. And then finally, it was very encouraging to hear from the line attorneys there talking about what they need as far as training goes, and to have Zariah there to be able to take note of that and tailor our training program to meet the needs on a local level as well. There was a lot of feedback saying, I need actually some practical training, right? Like let's have a clinic on cross-examination, or how to do a proper detention hearing. And so that is something that, we have that's why it's so valuable to go there in person, because a lot of times sending out a poll or a survey, people are so busy that they may not respond to those emails, and they're bombarded with, dozens of emails anyway. But going and doing that there in person and having that audience there and having that conversation really brings people out of their shells, and you're able to get some information that you might not otherwise be able to get. So I think that this program has been a huge success, and the goal is to meet with each county at least once during a 2-year period. So there are too many to be able to get every single year, but I think if we try and shoot for once every 2 years, that's something we can achieve. And I think the results have been really encouraging, and it's been really good to have that FaceTime with the local leaders, and also remind them of the work being done by the IDC and how those grant positions have been able to really make a positive change to their systems on a local level.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions about this? It's just so nice to see the IDC continue.
Were you able to find anything for me?
No, we were not, Todd.
Were you able to find anything?
Michael, you've got a hand up.
I do, and I'm actually talking to you all. I loved these reports. I read through every single one of the reports.
He hasn't responded.
In the materials, as I'm sure we all did as conscientious.
But I need to leave in about 5 minutes.
They were so insightful, and just to see who was present in the meetings and to hear what was talked about and what the challenges are and what the successes are. This meeting is so great because we get to hear from IAD. I guess the budget news was a little sad maybe, but these reports were wonderful, truly. Thank you for taking time not only to do the site visits, but then to write them up in a way that we as commissioners can understand. I think it's one thing for you all to go and glean all this information and understand it yourselves, but sometimes that gets lost in the translation as it comes back to us and helps us understand what's going on. And you just knocked it out of the park with these reports. They're so good. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Where'd Katrina? Take a bow, Katrina.
Yes, Katrina, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Kendall
Thank
Thomas.
you.
I got one question.
Yes.
I'm new to all this. Is there any new non-budgetary bills going to be presented that we should be aware of in this upcoming session?
Pam looks like she knows about something.
I have one I have two I'm all excited about. Well, one we're not as excited about, but we're still hoping. Senator Weiler has been, I don't know, Matt will give you the update on juvenile pilot project because it's not in the governor's budget. So that interferes with the ability or the likelihood of it. But I do think that that is a project that we should all continue to have on our radars and stuff like that. So I don't know where all of that's at, but I am excited about it, even if it doesn't move this session, that we could continue to move it. But the other thing that we're working on, at least in juvenile this session, is we did a pilot project in Salt Lake where that was funded by the IDC, where we had an attorney consult with clients before they declined a non-judicial adjustment. And we saw about 60 cases that we were able to keep from getting petitioned to court. And so
Can you explain what a non-judicial is?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So a non-judicial is like if a kid gets referred to court, but they're low risk, low level offenses. So both their risk level comes up and then there's certain like misdemeanor type level offenses that they meet with the probation officer and basically do kind of a diversion agreement where they still get consequences and stuff, but they don't have a formal filing to the court. They don't actually see a judge. And it has to do with keeping, the idea being that you keep low risk kids out of court, that you actually prevent like an increase in recidivism, but making sure you're targeting the right population. And that piece of legislation, I have to say, is something I think is important for all of us to really keep in mind, because the non-judicial stuff that happened in juvenile court, and Margaret, step in here to help me out, is really, frankly, what controlled caseloads for juvenile court. And as we go into the session, when people start to talk about whittling away and reducing the types of cases that go to non-judicial, that is so imperative that we talk about that is an increase in caseload for judges, for prosecutors, and for defense attorneys. And I mean, not by a little bit, by a lot. Like pre-reform, my individual attorneys' caseloads were 800 cases a year. They went down to like around 200. And now there's a lot of things that play into that, but the biggest, most significant decrease in that was the misdemeanor level offenses of non-judicials. Like the increase in our caseload, if we have to have those cases come back, will be huge. But this is for existing cases that are eligible. So one, I would just want to say, I think we are anticipating that there might be some non-judicial bills that come through, like to like change what's eligible for or mandatory for a first-time non-judicial. And I think it's important for all of us to keep in mind that that will have a significant impact on caseloads for youth defenders if those things are impacted. But two, what this was for cases that are eligible for a non-judicial. What we were seeing was kids were declining the non-judicial just because they didn't understand, right? Like the easiest example is a kid is holding someone's marijuana and they get charged with possession of a marijuana. They've never been to court before. They've never been in trouble. They test clean and they're eligible for a non-judicial, but they say, no, I don't want to accept the non-judicial because they're like, I wasn't smoking, I was just holding it. And then when they talk to a lawyer, we're like, you're not allowed to hold it for someone either, right? And so it's like, oh no, the non-judicial is a good idea for you. And so what was happening is a lot of kids' cases are getting petitioned. Then what that means is the prosecutor reviews the case. They have to file a formal petition. It gets set on a judge's calendar, a judge, a clerk, a bailiff, a prosecutor, a defense attorney. Everybody shows up to court. We all have a negotiation. We talk to the kid and explain, you should have just done the diversion. Then we file a motion to send it back. You know, it just creates, anyway, so what we saw was that this is another way to make sure that like kids aren't declining something that's really beneficial to them, not because they don't want to take advantage of it, but because they were declining it just based on a misunderstanding. And so what we're proposing is that they create a position that would be funded by IDC that allows for one attorney to be the non-judicial attorney for the entire state and do consultations. And it's about I think the number that we got from Sonia was a little over 400 cases a year, Matt. It seems like it was around 430 cases per year. And, you know, if we have the same success with those cases that we had in the pilot project, which is like, you know, like over 95% of them ended up taking the non-judicial. If we can keep 400 cases from going to court and having to be formal petitions, even though we have to have one attorney up front, that's still way less time than what it takes when it actually gets filed and sent to court, if that makes sense. So that's one thing that we do know for sure that we're working on, and we're super hopeful. Because I do think that that'll have a good impact on caseloads like all the way around resource wise.
Nice.
And these generally are the most low risk kids as far as, you know, intervention needs. And Pam's
Yeah,
right.
like even if they saw the judge would be like, okay, your grades are good, you're low risk, you were here, you know, I mean, and the probation department gives them consequences. They might have to pay restitution. They might have to do community service hours. They might have to do a class. There's lots of things probation does as part of the non-judicial agreement, but it's just like preventing them from having to do a formal filing, taking up time on a judicial calendar. And also the point of that is that for those low risk kids, when they go to court, then it has an impact on recidivism stuff. But I think it also has a huge impact on resources that we should be aware of.
Thank you both. That was a good question, Kendall. Okay, let's see. I think there's maybe one more message. Yeah, Margaret, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. This is just an important one with contract stuff. So thank you, everyone. Happy
Yes.
holidays.
You too. Thank you. Okay, well, that might wrap up the official agenda items if no one else has an urgent question. Public comment, I don't think we have anyone. It's not part of our regular team to ask for that. Let's see, other business dates for meetings in the new year. I don't think that we have a date on this agenda for next time, but do you anticipate we'll have a meeting in January, Matt?
Well, we certainly could. Let me just look and see what day that would fall on.
For you who are newer, a lot of times we don't go this long, but sometimes we do have as much business as we have this time. Not always.
It would be the 16th at 2 o'clock.
So January 16th at 2. So the session hasn't quite started on that day.
Right.
Okay, yeah, it does look like that's the regular time. So probably will have a meeting by then.
Yep.
Yeah, updates. Okay. All right, anyone else? Anything else we've missed? Okay. Well, very good. Good meeting. Lots of things covered. Thank you so much, all of you. It's a big commitment to be part of this group. It's a super important group. Appreciate each of you. And have some happy holidays. Hopefully get some days off. Hopefully we'll get a little snow, mostly in the mountains. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you
Have a good
later.
day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.